Welcome to Etihad Focus, your home for the latest match updates, transfer news, breaking rumours, and exclusive training insights. If you love football and want fast, accurate updates, you're in the right place. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to stay connected with all the action only on Etihad Focus. Pep Guardiola press conference, Manchester City injury updates and team news ahead of Wolves. Manchester City take on Wolves in the Premier League on Saturday afternoon. It's been a tough week for City, having lost the Manchester derby last weekend and then suffered a humiliating 3-1 reverse to Bodo/Glimt in the Champions League in midweek. The Blues have not won in the Premier League this year, a run of 4 matches, and are now relying on favours from others in Europe to secure a top 8 spot in the Champions League. Guardiola is also battling an injury crisis with several senior stars unavailable. But he will be able to call on Marc Guehi for the weekend with the defender in line to make his debut following his move from Crystal Palace. The City boss will provide the latest on the team news and injuries, as well as the transfer talk. Stay with the blog for all the latest. City could have 4 players back for their Premier League game against Wolves, but their injury problems persist. The Blues were missing 10 for the trip to the Arctic Circle, which stretched to 11 when they signed Marc Guehi, and 12 when Jeremy Doku did not train the day before the game. Doku was an unused substitute in the 3-1 defeat, but will hope to feature against Wolves on Saturday as City look to get back on track in the Premier League. He will be joined by Crystal Palace captain Guehi, who will make his debut for his new side after completing a £20 million move. Antoine Semenyo and Bernardo Silva will also come back into the squad after missing the trip to Norway. Semenyo, like Guehi, is not eligible for the Champions League until the knockout rounds begin, while Silva was serving a suspension after 3 yellow cards in the competition. Pep Guardiola insisted that Rodri will return to his best as he hit out at the disastrous position that Manchester City find themselves in. The midfielder was sent off in a 3-1 Champions League defeat that continues a miserable January for the Blues. But Guardiola came out fighting to defend his team and the position they still occupy. Rodri's red, and his performance before that has generated more debate on whether the Ballon d'Or winner can get back to top form after such a serious injury, while City are fighting to stay in contention in the Premier League and Champions League. 3 points are needed against Wolves on Saturday to avoid a 5th straight league game without a win, while victory over Galatasaray on Wednesday may not even be enough to avoid a European playoff. Guardiola defended City's position in the Champions League despite the shock defeat to Bodo/Glimt, as he mocked the standards that they are held to compared to other teams. He also continues to believe that Rodri will return to his best. The City boss says he knows the reasons behind the Blues' fragility and that the signing of Marc Guehi will help but not solve the problem. Matheus Nunes still has a virus, and Nico Gonzalez is unlikely to return in time for Wolves tomorrow. First question is on Guehi, with Pep confirming he will play City. Players have chipped in nearly £10,000 to cover the cost of tickets for all 374 fans who went out to watch them in Bodo. Hundreds of Blues travelled to the Arctic Circle for the Champions League game, but witnessed a limp performance and a shock 3-1 defeat. Having started the night in 4th place in the table with just 2 games remaining, the result leaves City in danger of falling into the Champions League playoff places. They will have to beat Galatasaray at home next Wednesday, and likely hope that other results go their way, if they are to avoid another 2 matches that will involve more cost for any supporters wanting to watch them home or away. The City squad, led by captains Bernardo Silva, Ruben Dias, Erling Haaland and Rodri, agreed collectively that they should at least give any fans who travelled out to Norway their money back for the game, and the gesture of £9,357 is at least token compensation after an expensive trip. Our supporters mean everything to us, they said. No Manchester City player will have left the Arctic Circle on Tuesday night believing they would be immune from criticism in the aftermath of a game like that. Losing 3-1 to Bodo/Glimt, regardless of the plastic pitch and freezing temperatures, was below par, and the subsequent decision to refund match tickets highlighted that. But perhaps one of the most worrying takeaways from the defeat was the performance of Rodri. The Spaniard has been one of the most reliable players for City during the Pep Guardiola era. And yet, against the Norwegian side, he looked a shadow of the player which won the Ballon d'Or. His passing was wayward, He was dispossessed moments before the second goal and was passed as if he was not there as Bodo/Glimt scored their third. Rodri's disappointing sending off for 2 yellow cards in quick succession summed up what was an awful night for him and the Blues. Well, the week has to get better, doesn't it? Afti. Manchester City hands Pep Guardiola new challenge to prove his genius once again. On the back of a chastening derby defeat last weekend, Manchester City were expected to bounce back in Norway on Tuesday night in the Champions League. Instead, it was a nightmare evening for Pep Guardiola and co at Manchester City. The plan is simple for Pep Guardiola. Win another Premier League and Champions League, add to a sparkling legacy, go out in a blaze of glory. It could be this year, it could be next year. But more silverware, more gushing praise for a wonderful style of football, and add a final gloss to a sparkling legacy. That plan did not involve Pep Guardiola returning from the bitter cold of the Arctic Circle with his tail between his legs. Guardiola is an undisputed managerial great, but even he is not immune to failure. And failure, right now, is staring the Manchester City boss straight in the face. Guardiola must feel like he's been hit by a snowplow. His team has been humiliated not once, but twice in the space of a week. Embarrassed by the neighbours, City went to see some strangers, poles apart from themselves, and melted down completely. A night the minnows of Bodo/Glimt would never forget. A night Guardiola wishes he could, but likely never will. City lost to a team based in a place with a population which is less than the capacity of the Etihad Stadium, and gave Guardiola a sense of humiliation he won't be overly familiar with. It is a result that will have sent shockwaves around the footballing world, and which will embolden City's Champions League rivals. It proves Guardiola has serious problems to fix, and fast if City are to avoid the very real threat of a second straight season without silverware. This City side is full of weaknesses. Glaring weaknesses from back to front. On Tuesday night, City conceded 3 goals and saw their opponents have 2 more disallowed, having let 2 in 4 days earlier. Marc Guehi's arrival can't come soon enough. Rodri won the Ballon d'Or in 2024, but he looks a shell of his former self. Sent off for 2 bookings in the space of 60 seconds, he is well off the pace. He missed last season pretty much in its entirety after knee surgery, but finds himself now well off the pace, personifying City's inability to control possession, not to mention win it back. In attack, Guardiola has the most lethal striker in world football, but due to the failings of those around him, is seeing Erling Haaland morph into someone who is about as threatening as a wet sponge. It's now 8 games without a goal from open play. It's the Norwegian giant's worst run since 2018. Haaland labelled the loss in his homeland as embarrassing. Not words he will have ever felt he would be saying about the team to whom he has committed the next decade of his career. How he must miss Kevin De Bruyne, the Belgian, City's greatest ever player, with whom his relationship was telepathic. De Bruyne was always going to be tough for City to replace when the decision was made to part ways. Impossible, perhaps. Attempting to do so with Tijani Reinders hasn't worked. Guardiola reckons City need a change in dynamic. The most obvious way to do so is to get rid of the manager. Frankly, at the Etihad, that will never happen. Therefore, it's down to Guardiola to prove his genius once more. He needs to put right what is going wrong before it's too late.